we stop this nonsense and trigger an election?
All right, so today is officially the day. Today's the day we find out if the Bloc Québécois is actually going to topple this Liberal government. For 5+ weeks now, the Bloc has been going on and spewing that they are going to be voting in favor or putting forward a motion of non-confidence if they don't get what they want. Well, that deadline has passed as of yesterday. So today, in theory, they should be putting forward that vote of non-confidence, which is why you should go down below in the description to my other channel called House of Canada, where I live stream every single question period, because we're going to be live streaming this as it happens in real time. This is going to be groundbreaking stuff. So we're going to talk about that, but a little bit later in the video. We have a lot of news, very front-loaded video, lots of heavy stuff very much at the front, including Mark Holland, who has a bit of a meltdown talking about regulating food in a committee hearing here in Canada. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this video. So our dollar hits an all-time low. A single loonie is now worth 72 cents American. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. And you can see the top comment here saying it's going to get worse. That's not good at all. And speaking of not good, you've got gun crime on the rise in Canada.
The surge of illegal firearms, not just here in Peel and the GTA, pose a significant threat. In reality, here in Peel, we have seized more firearms than we have in any year previously. On average, we're seeing an illegal firearm seized by our officers just slightly over 30 hours. Every 30 hours, we're seizing a firearm. This isn't exclusive to the Peel area, but the GTA and the province itself. The number of shootings we've seen here in Peel exceed more than we've ever seen in years previously. I can say the majority of these legal firearms are smuggled into Ontario through criminal networks, and the origins we know are from the US. And these criminal networks are looking to capitalize on our community to make profit, victimize the vulnerable. Approximately 90% of these firearms that we seize are directly traced back to the US. And I can say in reality, the remaining 10% are likely also from the US. They just reflect the ability of the difficulty we have on tracing some of these firearms because they've been de-identified. When these firearms arrive in our community and become more easily accessible, the rate of violence and vulnerability in our community is undeniable.
Yeah, and so these are illegal firearms that are brought in illegally. And this is where the government kind of conflates this with the reality that law-abiding gun owners in Canada commit less than 1% of all of gun crime in this country. So I'm sure that they're going to take this out of context and they're going to try and impose more sanctions, for lack of better words, on gun owners here in Canada. But I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on that. And then we have to talk about communist British Columbia, sorry, NDP British Columbia, and how David Eby pretty much congratulated himself in his speech.
Let me start by reflecting on the election result. I think this was a message that was sent certainly to me, to our government from British Columbians, that they expect us to do better on a number of key files. But equally, it was the opportunity for us to do better. And I am very grateful and honored by the opportunity presented by British Columbians to be able to do just that with the team that we're bringing to the legislature. They represent the first time ever in this province that the NDP has been elected 3 times to serve, and we take that honor very seriously. And our goal here is to make sure that this place behind me works for British Columbians, especially on the priorities that were so evident during the campaign. Cost of living, the pressure that people are feeling on their monthly bills at the end of every month, feeling like they're just getting by or not even getting by, let alone getting ahead. The need for affordable housing, strong and safe communities, addressing big challenges like climate change, making sure this province is a welcoming place for everybody, and ensuring a strong healthcare system from corner to corner to corner of this beautiful province that we call home. That's what our work will be going forward. I'm honored to be asked to take it on. I met with the Lieutenant Governor, advised her that I believed that we could deliver the confidence of the legislature, and she invited us to form government. That work is underway.
Right. So this is one of the most controversial elections that have taken place in recent Canadian history, where the Conservatives came out of nowhere. They were polling at like 2% previous years because they were just inactive. Then John Rustad took the party at the head and was like, "Hey, okay, let's go and let's fix this." And he was actually ousted from a previous BC government party, for those that didn't know. And it seemed like the underdog fight where, it's unlikely that the Conservatives could win, but as time went on, more and more support for the BC Conservative Party, it seemed like, yeah, there's a real shot. And like, let's be honest, BC is probably the most woke, just like government speaking, province out of all of the other provinces and territories. Like the BC NDP is absolutely horrible. I mean, they're literally funding the drug crisis here in Canada. Like the biggest drug cartel in this country is our own government. That's not a good thing. And they're causing a lot of problems. And then, in some very key ridings, you had a Conservative lead, and then all these mail-in ballots came in, and then that was enough to sway the votership to the other side, where the NDP now won those ridings, got additional seats, and now they've won a majority government here in British Columbia. It stinks because I'm not saying it's election interference, but I mean, David Eby's advisor was literally mentioned in Kevin Vong's press conference with Chinese election or Chinese foreign interference. So it's all kind of linked, kind of sketchy nonetheless, but that's my opinion, and I would absolutely love to know yours. And then we have to talk about the Senate and how they're shedding a light on an extremely important topic. Over 2 million Canadians are eating at food banks every single month. This is disgusting. These are high numbers. My goodness, what the hell is going on with our country?
Senator Plett.
Well, before I begin today, I need to comment and acknowledge the new seating plan in the chamber. Canadians can finally see the entire Senate government caucus solidly behind Senator Gold. On the weekend, a Liberal MP described the Prime Minister's dismissive response to his caucus revolt, Senator Gold, as tone-deaf and disrespectful. You had the same kind of response to Senator Martin's questions last week about 15,000 Canadians waiting hours in the rain for free produce. Tone-deaf and disrespectful. When I challenged you in your comments, you denied making them, Senator Gold. Leader, you've had the time to think it over. Will you withdraw your comments and apologize, not just to Senator Martin, but to all the Canadians who can't afford food?
Senator Gold.
Senator Plett, I think I was clear in my response the day after the question and answers exchange, and I'll try to be clear again. I do not believe, it was certainly not my intent, nor do I think it was my words, that cast disrespect or lack of sympathy or understanding to those who are facing challenges putting food on their table. And I'm not going to continue to remind this chamber that, at least from my point of view, the government that I represent and myself personally, I'm trying as best as we can to answer your questions, however you frame them, factually and on the basis of policy. And in that respect, again, I stand by what I said and by the commitment of this government to help Canadians in need.
Senator Plett.
I would suggest you check Hansard, because we just might for you and bring it here. Yesterday,
Wow.
Food Banks Canada reported that a record-breaking 2 million plus Canadians visited food banks in March alone, an increase of 6% over last year. Leader, they're not slogans like you like to say. They're not talking points like you like to accuse us of. They're fellow Canadians, Senator Gold, fellow Canadians. Why aren't questions about their struggles worthy of your respect, Senator Gold? And don't they deserve a government that will put their needs first?
Senator Gold.
Senator Plett, again, you are implying, or not implying, you are stating what is not true. I have enormous respect and sympathy and empathy for each and every Canadian who is struggling, as too many are, and I stand by that. And no amount of your innuendos changes how I feel and how this government is acting on behalf of Canadians.
And see, this is where it becomes extremely disingenuous, because if that were true, if he did care about those things and, you know, the concerns of Canadians with unaffordability, for instance, then why would anyone support the carbon tax, which adds so much more stress and pressure on people? For crying out loud, gas prices alone would go down 25 to 35 cents per liter. That's a pretty huge and drastic change. But again, that's my opinion, and I would love to know yours. And we have to talk about next is this committee hearing where Mark Holland kind of went a little bit cuckoo. This was shared by Rebel Media here. Health Committee chaos in 10 minutes. Liberals are trying to regulate natural health products out of existence as more people opt for alternatives to a failing health system. Health Minister Mark Holland makes a total a-hole of himself, and the chair, Sean Casey, loses control of the meeting.
Down this road before with you, and I guess let's start with some simple questions. You like to use some very emotionally charged language. How many Canadians don't have a family doctor?
I don't,
the number?
and my family doesn't, so that's four right there.
The most recent report that was just released by CIHI, it depends on province. So you say Ontario is at 88% who do.
Just the number.
The lowest province about 79%. Territories are lower, particularly Nunavut being the lowest.
Minister, I'm going to interrupt you because, again, you and I have gone down this road many times, and you said you've read the report. How many, I'll say it perhaps slowly and clearer for you. How many Canadians
across the country, it's known to be about 82% have
excuse me, Minister.
Okay.
Don't interrupt me. This is not your time for question. You'll have lots of time when you're in opposition to ask questions, if you so desire, or if you're able to keep your seat. That being said, how many Canadians don't have access to primary care in Canada? Just the number.
It's estimated at 6.5 million.
Actually, if you read the CIHI report, it says 5.4 million adults, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So tell me this, is that number going up or going down?
Every province and every territory, with I believe one exception, that the access to doctor is improving. There's been more doctors added, more nurses added. That's in the baseline CIHI report, so that's actually before our investment
again,
of $200 billion.
Minister, I don't think that's what I asked you, is the number of Canadians who do not have access to a primary care physician going up or going down?
Access is going up. That in the baseline report, we see every province and every territory access to more doctors, more nurses in almost every jurisdiction. That's a baseline report. That is before the interventions of our signed agreements with every province, every territory, $200 billion being applied.
But we know
and I
very
could talk
clearly,
about all the different ways that we're improving that circumstance, but conservative cuts certainly aren't going to help.
You know, again, if you don't want to be respectful, why do you even bother coming here?
I'm sorry, I don't find your questions or your demeanor respectful, so I don't know why I should reciprocate something that is not extended.
Point of order, Speaker.
Point of order, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm patiently listening to Mr. Ellis's questioning, and I'm failing to see any relevance to the topic in hand, which is this particular bill dealing with natural health products. So unless he's got a long-winded way of getting to the presentation that we heard and the bill that we are reviewing, like him to focus on the bill that we're talking about. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's valid. I'm not sure that there's a connection between access to family doctors and this private member's bill. This is not an examination of estimates where it's much more wide open. So
Point of order, though?
I do hope and expect that Dr. Ellis will get to the point. And I think it is a valid point of order. Did you have another one, Ms. Goodridge, or is it on this point?
I have a point of order on this point of order. The minister just very clearly said that he doesn't plan on respecting my colleague because he has decided that that is not something he's going to do. I don't think that is befitting of a formal committee meeting.
I think there's...
That's pretty messed up.
I think it's reciprocal, quite frankly, and it's too bad. The witness merits respect, as does the person posing the question, and why don't we treat everyone with respect around here, please? I wouldn't pin it on one side or the other based on what I've heard so far. Did you have something you want to say, Minister?
My reflection was simply that if I'm attacked and treated in the way that I am, I'm going to respond. And absolutely, I'm here to answer questions.
Okay.
But I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that perhaps we could start with things germane to this bill,
Chair. Point
and
of order.
perhaps in a way that's
Realistically, to the
conducive to
witness,
finding solutions
who controls
instead of
this committee?
badgering
Is it
one
you,
another.
Chair, or is it the Minister?
Please,
This
Dr.
is
Ellis,
ridiculous.
the Minister has the floor.
It's ridiculous.
The Minister has the floor.
Ridiculous.
I do not, I can tell you that and look, I was in opposition. I've been in the position that they are in where you ask questions.
Okay.
And I am saying that there's not only is the
Thank you.
conversation not relevant,
Thank
but
you.
I don't think that
Okay.
it's at all respectful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Now, Mr. Doherty has a point of order.
Mr. Chair, it is commonplace within this committee, as well as other committees that I've sat on, that the length of a question is then therefore applied to the length of the answer. Where the frustration comes with this minister is that he tends to go on beyond the length of the time that it took to ask the question. As you know, members are given a specific allotment of time, and it is frustrating when you have ministers appear, not just this minister, but other ministers appear. And I know that this minister is well versed in the art of what we call ragging the puck, and so are other ministers, taking up the time of each member. So when my colleague and others ask a simple question, just a number, that's all that they look to receive. If we wanted the statistics for each province, I would offer through you, Mr. Chair, that would then bode the answer that the minister was going down. I can see that my colleague has done research and has a number of questions that he would like to ask. So I would ask through you to our minister is that if and when he can be concise, to please be concise.
A point of order, Chair.
Yes, Dr. Ellis.
Yeah, I know this is painful for you. I understand that. But since when does a witness get to direct a committee? All I suggest to you, and I know you won't like this, but do your job.
Holy smokes.
Ms. Sito, do you have a point of order, or do you want to intervene on this one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we invited a minister. Let's be respectful. When we are asked the question, minister has the right to give the answer. That's my point. Thank you.
3 minutes and 37 seconds.
Thank you very much, Chair. So, Minister, before all of the bombast, back to the questioning here. When we begin to look at Canadians, of course, because of your mismanagement of the health file, they have to look after themselves by virtue of turning to things such as natural health products. So your ineptitude, of course, has led many Canadians, of course, which we've heard from, using natural health products. That being said, how many Canadian seniors are hospitalized every year because of pharmaceutical products?
I believe that I was here for natural health products. I don't blame the member for not wanting to ask questions about this terrible bill. I wouldn't want to talk about this terrible bill either. So I understand his desire to talk about anything but this awful bill. I could tell him, because I'll bring it back to the bill, 772 severe adverse reactions from natural health products. That this member is supporting a bill that would not allow our ability to recall products that have those kinds of. So the types of hospitalizations.
Chair,
Minister, please go ahead, Dr. Ellis.
Chair, you know, clearly what we're seeing here is an aversion to answering questions. Very simply, this will connect. I know it's difficult for you. How many Canadian seniors are hospitalized every year due to pharmaceutical products?
I understand that it's
just the number, Minister.
I understand that it's.
Come on, man.
Amount of time as he asked the question. Is that the rule?
Yep.
I understand that it's difficult for you to understand that I'm here on natural health products, that is the purpose of this study, and I understand why you wouldn't
Thank you very much,
answer
Minister.
questions on
I
it.
will interrupt you once again. Just the number. How many?
I am here to talk about natural health products. It is the
so-
purpose of this study,
so
and I
once
want to
again-
talk about it. I'm not going to let you
Thank
off
you,
the
Minister.
hook to not talk about your own
Thank
bill.
you, Minister. Once again, I'll move along because you clearly have no clue how many Canadian seniors are hospitalized every year due to pharmaceutical products, which again are under your purview. Would you care to answer that on behalf of Canadians or no? Simple answer. If you don't want to, or you don't know the answer, it's okay.
What I'm not going to do is engage in an attempt to not talk about this bill. You have not asked any questions related to this bill because you don't want to talk about how deadly this bill is. The fact that you would leave products on the shelves that are dangerous to Canadians' health.
You know, the difficulty, of course, is, Minister, is that 13,000 Canadians are harmed by pharmaceutical products every year. Seniors hospitalized, 13,000, just because people need a reference. All you want to do is talk, you know, down to Canadians about feces and lead, all your fantastical words, of course. That's what your attempt to do. Minister, very simple question. How much does the NHP industry contribute to the GDP of Canada on a yearly basis?
Enormously. It is a booming industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry. Am I allowed to answer the question in the same time that you took to ask the question?
You got another 25 seconds to answer the question.
Thank you. It's a booming industry. It is a growing industry. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But one of the things that will protect that industry is ensuring that that industry is afforded the protection of being able to recall bad products.
Minister. I think I still have 10 seconds. Once again, I'll ask you just for the number.
Look, Mr. Chair, do I still have?
Yes, go ahead.
So one of the things that's when you're talking about adverse effects on pharmaceuticals, the idea that there's adverse effects on pharmaceuticals, so therefore you do nothing about natural health products? You just leave the people who have adverse effects for natural health products with nothing?
Thank you.
How you draw your own conclusions. That being said, because of your negative effects on the natural health product industry, how many businesses are saying they're considering shuttering operations in Canada?
Vanessa's law does not affect any compliant or any business attempting to be compliant at all. Cost to businesses that are compliant or attempting to be compliant is exactly $0. $0.
Oh my goodness, what a zoo. The Conservatives have tremendous demeanor. Like they're very calm. They're just chill, right? When you look at how the Liberals are reacting, they're just screaming, they're throwing all these tantrums, they're turning this into a zoo. It's going to be really interesting to just shift things when Pierre has a majority government and when these committee meetings happen, when question period happens, and what the opposition parties are how they're going to handle it when it comes time to asking the government, asking Pierre, you know, for answers. But again, that was crazy. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about that. It's not too often where you see craziness like that in committee hearings or committee meetings, but when it does happen, it's pretty wild. Now let's move on to the Bloc Québécois here that said this during question period. They said, "I'm ready for an election."
It's like the insane asylum. The Conservatives want to table a motion to get rid of the government. They have to stop filibustering. And now the Conservatives are protecting the government, strangely enough. And now the Conservatives' obstruction seems to be in favor of the Liberals because they don't want to work more. Can we stop this nonsense and trigger an election, Mr. Speaker? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, we can clearly see who is here in this House to play politics and who's here to work.
Well, there you go. It's official. We've heard right from the Bloc Québécois in multiple different videos that they are ready for an election, and we're going to know more about that later today. This is extremely exciting. But for those that missed it, there was this piece that just happened in question period yesterday where there was some back and forth between the Liberal Housing Minister, Sean Fraser, who called the Freedom Convoy the January 6th of Canada. Let's take a look.
Mr. Speaker, I sometimes ask myself where they found this guy. He twists the facts to suit his narrative whenever he wants. It's almost like the Conservative Party, when looking for a new leader, hopped on Temu, typed in far-right Conservative, and then spit this guy out instead. He opposes investments in affordable housing. He borrows lessons from his cousin south of the border when he opposes birth control for women. During the January 6th of Canada, the convoy, he wasn't just telling people to stand by, he was bringing them coffee in the streets. Mr. Speaker, it might be election season in America. We don't need this far right-wing populism here at home.
The Honour... Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of leadership contestants, that member must be so uptight and angry because the polling shows that though Canadians want to fire that Prime Minister, the Housing Minister ranks dead last in the polls. And why wouldn't he? This is the guy who lost track of 1 million people when he was Immigration Minister.
Yikes.
He ignored warnings from his own department that letting in 200% more people would cause a housing shortage. And his own government spent the last week trashing his entire immigration record. How can arrogance and incompetence so comfortably reside in one man?
Brutal. There you go, man. Like, Pierre was on fire in that question period episode. I don't know if you caught it, but I'd highly, highly, highly recommend that you guys go back and watch it if you haven't yet already. And then we've got this clip here on CTV that talks about I'm ready for an election. The Bloc is beginning to topple Trudeau's government as the ultimatum expires.
All right, let's go back to the Deputy Prime Minister who's answering questions about this threat by the Bloc to try and trigger a fall election.
As is well known, we had a caucus meeting last week where there was a candid and extensive exchange of views. It was a really good meeting. The Liberal Party is a broad church. We have always had a diversity of views, and we believe that's one of the things that makes us strong. I believed before that meeting and my view was confirmed that the vast majority of MPs support the Prime Minister. They support him as our leader today, and they support him as the guy who's going to lead us into the next election. Our party and our caucus have had many opportunities to decide our own rules for choosing a leader. Our party decided on that, and our caucus decided on that. And in our rules, the leader is not chosen by secret ballot of caucus members. That's just not how Liberals govern themselves. It's not how we do things.
On the Bloc issue, can you just categorically say that the Liberal government will not bring in the 10% increase? And Mr. Duclos, on the same point, we heard that you said it was a fake ultimatum in essence. I'm paraphrasing what you were saying this morning in French. Has your view changed after hearing Mr. Blanchet earlier today say that he is looking to bring the government down at the earliest available opportunity?
I'll just say very quickly, I have a good relationship with the Bloc. I think our government does. The lines of communication are open. There are a lot of things that we agree on, and we think that it's important to continue to have an open door and continue to have an opportunity to talk. And I do want to emphasize, our government is proud of our record when it comes to supporting seniors in Canada. I would say that no federal government has done more than we have done to support Canadian seniors, and the statistics bear that out. You know, we have really transformed the life of seniors and lifted millions of Canadian seniors out of poverty. That's something that we're really proud of.
And I would reinforce what Christia just said. The lines of communications are open and will keep being open. We don't want to be limited by what I call indeed an artificial deadline, artificial ultimatum. We don't see why we should stop working together for Quebecers and other Canadians just because we have passed that artificial deadline.
So it's my understanding that all the roads are leading towards a vote of non-confidence later on today. Now, I am extremely optimistic, so keep that in mind. But again, the Bloc hasn't received what they've wanted. They said, call an election. Everybody is preparing. It feels like this year is incomplete. Not because we haven't played out from now until Christmas, Christmas, but Pierre's already put forward 2 votes of non-confidence. You know what they say? Third time is the charm. And so this could just be extremely poetic. And I'm going to stay true to my opinion that the 20 to 30, maybe even 40 rebel MPs could, hopefully they would, of course, but they could vote in favor of non-confidence. The Bloc is going to vote unanimously. So will the Conservatives. That may or may not be enough. That may or may not be enough, depending, because we don't know the exact amount of rebels that there are. That may or may not be enough to actually push forward the vote and trigger an election. But we also don't know how Jagmeet is going to direct the NDP to vote in this. We could be very surprised. They could unanimously vote in favor of non-confidence, or for the third time, they could block it. We have no idea, but that's what makes this week particularly, but also today, so exciting about Canadian politics is that it just feels like the tides are shifting. It feels like something is in the air. Maybe that's because the American election is around the corner. Not that I'm, trying to, rub some stones together and look at my crystal ball and ooh, now look at my palm and what's my palm saying? I'm not like that far down into that stuff, but nonetheless, I just feel based off of the verbiage, based off of the press conference, based off people's demeanor, that something big is going to happen. And if it is, it's going to be this week, and it's going to start with today. I look forward to seeing you guys over on House of Canada for the question period live stream later today. Thank you so much for watching. I've shared my opinion. I would absolutely love to know yours. On your way out, if you haven't yet already, smash the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you guys later. Bye for now.